Back when I was 27, I found out that getting rich wasn't about working 80-hour weeks while surviving on energy drinks or risking your entire life savings on an individual stock or cryptocurrency. It's actually about developing tiny, consistent behaviors that seamlessly fit into your daily routine. I call these micro habits, and over time, these small habits stack on top of each other, they compound, and they will change your financial and personal life. Jesse Itzler, a famous entrepreneur and founder, has a yearly goal video where he shares that same mantra, and by adding one winning habit per quarter, he sets himself up for success in all facets of his life. Now, over the past decade or so, I've tried a bunch of these habits, and I wanted to share with you 15 micro habits that have completely changed my life. Plus, I'll share with you how you can apply them in your life. Number 1, get 1% better every day. This is the 1% rule, and it states that tiny improvements over your life can compound to a lot of success down the road. If you're able to make baby steps every single day, you can become 37.78 times better in 365 days by improving 1% every day, according to James Clear. So when it comes to your finances, that could look like saving an extra $5 per day, or perhaps cutting back on coffee once per week. It could also just look like making a little bit of extra money by unlocking some new income sources. In any case, if you just seek to get a little bit better over time, these consistent actions will give you meaningful results over time. Number 2 is to pay yourself first or automate your finances. The biggest trap is that for many people, money will enter their lives, like say through a paycheck, and they think that that gives them the permission to spend all of it. The problem here is that if you're spending your entire paycheck, you have nothing left over for your future self. So when you get a paycheck, the first thing that you should do is set aside a certain percentage of that paycheck, and if you can automate it via your online banking, that's even better. I get paid once a month on the 21st, and when that happens, the money gets deposited to my main checking account. All my usual spending for the month will come from that checking account, so that includes bills, necessities, and discretionary spending. But here's the genius of automation, because in my online banking, I will set up 2 automatic transfers whenever I get paid to move a preset portion of my paycheck into other accounts before I even get to spend it. You can decide what percentage this is for you, but I find that if you can automate at least 10% of your money into savings or investments, that is going to be really beneficial for you in the long run, and you'll actually be doing better than most Americans. Psychologically, this works also because you won't be tempted to spend the money because it automatically gets deducted before it even hits your checking account. This is a really easy micro habit to set up just once, and then you just forget about it, and your future self will thank you for it. Micro habit number 3 is to write down your goals either quarterly, monthly, or at a certain interval. By writing down your goals, you're 42% more likely to actually achieve them, according to Dr. Gail Matthews, a psychology professor at the Dominican University in California. I sometimes also like to look back on what my goals were just a few months or even a year ago, and this practice often gives you perspective on how far you've actually come. So I personally have a multi-year goal, so things that I want to accomplish in the next 3 years. Then I have yearly goals for the things I want to accomplish this year, quarterly goals, a monthly goal, and sometimes I even have a weekly goal. This way, you're not getting paralyzed by a goal that's too lofty, and you also have manageable goals that you can work towards in the short term. I would also encourage you to be specific with your goals. So instead of the goal of, let's say, saving money for a house, you should write down exactly how much money you need for that said house and the time frame that you want to achieve it in. So I like the goal, save $100,000 for a down payment within the next 3 years. I think that's much more measurable and much more specific than just a general, let's say, for a house. Number 4 is don't be afraid to spend money on yourself. This is also known as investing in yourself, and it's one of the best investments that you can make, period. When you invest in yourself, you are actually building up your own skill set, so that can hopefully translate to you making more money throughout your life. An easy habit here is that when you come to a decision about spending money, if it has benefits for your mental health, benefits for your physical health, or benefits for your knowledge, don't be shy about spending that money. It's always going to be worth the money if you're investing in your future. One of my favorite investors and thinkers is named Naval Ravikant. He's the founder of AngelList and multiple other ventures. And he said that if he were to be dropped in America and had to start all over again from scratch with no money, that he would be able to regain his fortune rather quickly because of the specific knowledge that he has. For example, imagine you're a web developer working in Silicon Valley alongside thousands of other developers with similar skills. You're making decent money, but the competition is quite intense. Then you hear about a growing industry with a need for AI agent specialists. So what do? You spend 6 months and thousands of dollars learning this specialized skill, and then all of a sudden you can be one of the only few hundred experts in a high demand field. Companies then would be willing to pay you a premium rate for your rare expertise, allowing you to double or perhaps triple your income with the same amount of work hours. Number 5 is to track your spending daily. This is an easy micro habit where you simply write down what you spend money on a daily basis. You can write down the expenses in the Notes app on your phone, or I personally use a free app called Spending Tracker. Every time I spend money, I just manually input each expense into my spending tracker. I know this seems simple, but once you understand how much you are spending on average, you can then look at your income and figure out a plan on how to allocate your money, which is one of the most rewarding work that you can do for your future self. Not to mention, I think that it actually makes you better with money, and it all comes from this simple habit that most people will not be able to do. However, if you are able to do it, it will probably change your life. Number 6 is to have a bias on action. So the most entrepreneurial and wealthiest people I know share one common trait, is that they don't sit around planning, they actually just often execute. They will execute, and oftentimes without perfect information and without fully knowing what they're getting themselves into. Having this bias towards action means that you are choosing progress over perfection. Entrepreneurs will often bet on themselves and have full belief that they'll be able to figure out whatever it is that they are working on. So whenever you are contemplating starting a project or taking a risk, make sure you just dive in headfirst, within reason, of course. That means you can start that side business with minimal investment. Perhaps you send an email without overthinking, or make a call you've been wanting to just today. Simply being in motion will create opportunities for you in your life, and I really, really do believe that at deep down in my core. Number 7 is exercise regularly. According to research, exercise enhances mood and self-esteem while decreasing stress tendencies. Studies show that people who exercise pretty often have a better frame of mind. And it doesn't have to be a crazy workout session either. So an article on Mental Health UK says that, quote, regularly committing to a physical activity is an achievement itself, and every activity session can improve your mood. So I personally find that it gives me clarity of mind when I'm working, and it also makes me feel more productive throughout the day. I think also it's a discipline thing. So if you can exercise pretty regularly, you are actually building momentum for the rest of your life. Number 8 is don't be afraid to shop around for better offers. This is something that I like to do pretty often, not every day, but perhaps once every quarter or every 6 months. And that's simply to call around for any service that I'm currently using and just make sure that I am paying the lowest possible price for that said service. For example, with my internet bill, I'm usually on a 1 or 2 year promotional pricing, and they offer that price because they are hoping that customers will forget about it after that promotional period. So what I do is I just simply set up a Google Calendar reminder every so often, let's say every 3 months or perhaps every 6 months. I will call that internet company and just ensure that I am on the lowest possible pricing for whatever service that they are offering. Another example besides an internet bill is you could shop around for home insurance, or you could shop around for car insurance. You can definitely save some money on insurance by comparing offers across different providers, and you could probably save, let's say, $100 to maybe even $150 a month doing that. I think that's a pretty easy win because you can just use an online tool like the ones from Bankrate or other websites, and you can see if you're getting the best deal on insurance. I'll leave a link down below to that in the description in case you do want to shop some offers. Number 9 is to log your focused hours per day. There's a pretty common lie that I hear many people in American culture telling each other, which is that they usually commiserate about how many hours that they work. Sometimes I hear someone say, oh my God, I worked 60 hours this week, when in reality, the number of focused hours people are working is quite low. Sometimes we might mistake working 60 hours for being in the office for 40 hours and then working deeply for, let's say, 15 or 20 hours. I personally had an office job where people had to be there from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. But if you actually were to just pay attention to the hours that someone is actually working, it is actually quite low. So in your own time, if you want to try logging the number of hours where you are in deep work, fully focused with no distractions, I bet that the amount of hours that you are working is probably less than 4 hours per day in terms of focused hours. However, it's these deep focused hours that actually move the needle in your projects at work, in your own business or side hustle, and will actually make you financially successful and successful in life. Being focused for even 2 to 4 hours per day is quite the accomplishment, and if you can stay consistent with this, you will get more done with your work time so that you have more time for other activities. Number 10, have an accountability partner. This is a really easy micro or tiny habit to start. Simply just call a friend who might be in a similar position to you with their life. Perhaps they want to improve their finances, improve their career, or start a business. This will then be your accountability partner, and by keeping in touch with them, let's say once per week, you will make so much more progress than if you didn't have one. Not only are you hopefully getting closer to this friend over time, you can now share your struggles, your wins, and your overall experiences, and the idea is that you both will improve together at a very rapid pace. This is actually research backed, so according to the American Society of Training and Development, people with accountability partners are 65% more likely to complete their goals. When you add a specific accountability appointment with that person, success rates actually jump up to 95%. Your accountability partner doesn't need to be an expert, they just need to be reliable and genuinely interested in your mutual growth. The key, I think, is to create a judgment-free zone where you can be completely honest about setbacks and progress and hopefully give that same feedback to your own accountability partner. Habit number 11 is to time block. So what this means is that you're setting up your schedule in blocks for specific tasks. I've now come to find that many great CEOs and entrepreneurs will use this on a daily basis, and here's a great illustration from the Todoist blog. On the left, you'll see here is what most people do. They scatter their activities throughout the day, resulting in less efficiency. Contrast that with the time blocking method on the right. You block out specific hours of your day for tasks. In this example, this person is working on a client proposal for most of the morning. The day on the right is more focused, and it's also a shorter day, which ends at 5 p.m. instead of 7 p.m. If you're able to time block certain activities throughout the day, you will be more productive, and this will be easier to handle mentally. If we can be more productive, it is my hope that we can hopefully make more money, so time blocking should be really helpful here, and it's an easy habit to start. Number 12 is to journal your gratitude. Recent studies have shown that engaging in a daily practice like gratitude journaling can lead to better sleep, ease anxiety, boost immunity, and even soothe physical pain. I used to think that this wasn't powerful, but I've done it for about a year and a half now, and you realize that the brain notices what it expects to see. By writing down 1 to 3 simple things that brought you joy that day or that you were grateful for, you're subconsciously teaching your brain to focus on the positive things going on in your life. That should lead to a virtuous cycle of even more positivity and happiness. I personally like to write down what happened that day in the evening that I was thankful for, and it could be as simple as, that I showed up for my morning run or that a friend texted me that I hadn't heard from in a while. I would personally just encourage you to try it out and let me know how it goes in the comments. Number 13 is to dip your toes. Now, not physically in water, although you could dip your toes. I'm more talking about if you're ever thinking about starting something new or adding an income stream, take some small calculated risks while still doing your main thing. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur from a young age, and when I was making a good income from my day job, I would take a portion of my paycheck, set it aside, and try to use that to invest in future projects that I thought could become my reality in the said future. So I actually hired a developer to help me make a budgeting app while I was still working at my full-time job at the gaming company that I worked for. So I went through the experience of creating an LLC. I had to wireframe the app, write specifications on how I wanted the app to function, and then also throw on a project manager hat to ensure that we could eventually submit the app to the Apple iTunes store. The app was called Budget Life, and it looked to improve upon the spending tracker app that I use daily to track my expenses. Essentially, I would just work on this on the side, and while the app was ultimately unsuccessful, the mere act of investing about $3,000 into this project gave me some skin in the game and actually taught me a lot about app development. The takeaway is that if you have a side hustle that you really like or want to figure out a business that you can start on the side that may eventually replace your full-time income, I would encourage you to dip your toes in different endeavors. So even though I spent $3,000 and I was unsuccessful with that app, that still gave me a lot of confidence to continue to do entrepreneurial activities. Even if it does fail, you will learn a ton in the process, which should serve you better moving forward. Number 14, don't worry about what people think. This is a micro habit that needs more attention, and you need to actually actively work on it yourself. But basically, other people should have no bearing on what you should be doing with your life. So many people are afraid of what other people are thinking of them when it comes to pursuing a new project, a new endeavor, or just doing something different. The truth is that no one cares what you are doing. Everyone is so preoccupied and in their own little world that they will barely notice your actions. A great example of this is to think back to perhaps the last dinner that you went to with your friends or your family. Can you recall exactly what outfit everyone was wearing? Probably not, and even if you were able to, I bet it's with not that much accuracy. So the habit here is pretty simple. Whenever you're thinking of doing something new and you are thinking, oh my God, what is so-and-so gonna think of me? You tell that part of your brain, hey, shut the hell up. I know that sounds a little bit ridiculous, but if you're able to train your brain to recognize when that is happening and move past it, you are gonna be way better off. Number 15 is to schedule in some reflection time. Giving yourself time off is gonna be really important to recharging your batteries and ensuring you stay focused on your goals. Bill Gates, yes, that Bill Gates, famously has a think week once or twice a year where he goes into an isolated cabin in the Pacific Northwest, disconnects from all technology, and cuts himself off from family and friends to reflect. In this time, he reads a lot, books, newspapers, industry news, and more. The purpose here is to take some time to slow down, disconnect, and take a step back and think about bigger picture strategy. Are you going in the right direction? Are you working on the right things? Have you been getting 1% better every day? Scheduling time to reflect will help you see the perspective that you might need in order to progress even further. If you're not able to take a week off, perhaps just one purposeful day off dedicated to reflecting on on what you've been doing right is ultimately going to be very helpful. These are some of the micro habits that have helped me reach my financial goals, be richer, and stay in the pursuit of self-improvement. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a subscribe, drop a like, and check out my next video on the 21 personal finance lessons that changed my life. It'll be right here. All right, peace.